All right, greetings and welcome again to the Zero Hour Squared Classics. My guest today on the Zero Hour Squared Classics is a member of a band who has won the Visionary Award at the 2017 Progressive Music Awards. They are a Billboard Top 200 charting band, and they have been featured on Guitar Hero 2. And their LP, The Wake, won a 2018 Juno Award. And for those of you flatliners who don't know what that is, that's the Canadian equivalent of the Grammys. For Heavy Metal Album of the Year. And I'm talking none other than guitarist of the greatest band in the universe, Chewy, a.k.a. Dan Mongrain of VoiVod. And first off, Dan, thank you for joining us on the Zero Hour Square Classics. We really do appreciate it. It's an honor. And I want to ask you first and foremost, how are you and the other members doing in this crazy time and this pandemic?
Well, first of all, thanks for the introduction and thanks for having me. I hope you guys are all right on your side.
Right.
And yes, it's been a special era, as everybody knows. I think we just keep working. We I think all the guys are feeling good. Nobody's sick. Everybody's doing their best, to I'm sorry, to get through this without going crazy. And I think the most difficult part is not to see each other, not playing together that much. We did one live streaming show. It was great. It was fantastic just to play the first chord when we rehearsed for it. Like everybody were all smiles, and I really enjoyed the experience because it brought me back the feeling of when I started to play with the band, because it's been 5 months and I think it's the longest period where I didn't play with any bands in my career, from 14-year-old to 44-year-old. So 30 years. I realized I always played in bands on a regular basis, and it's the first time I was cut from it for 5 or 6 months. So the first chord and the first cymbal and kick drum and the first, we were pumped like we were at the biggest show ever, and we were just rehearsing at the jam space, and it felt great, and it confirms that we really like doing it.
For not having played together for a period of time like that, how were your chops? Did you feel like, was it a little rusty, or was it just like getting on a bicycle and boom, there, just that easy?
It was pretty close to getting back on the bike.
Okay.
I think everybody uh, continued to play a little bit. I at home, but away the drummer didn't have his drum kit for the whole time. But when he got back to it, it was like all printed in his brain and DNA, So it was perfect, yeah, from the first song. And we did two rehearsal, and we did the show right away. We played those songs so many times in the last few years. It's like it was very natural, but of course it was not 100% at the first time we played the song, but it came back pretty fast.
Right. That was a high energy show, man. I checked that out, and it was. I remember it was Snake's birthday, and he had the cool mask with the VoiVod logo on it, and the face. That was really, really cool. And by the way, we were talking before the interview started. This is originating from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I just want to let you know you all have a ton of fans out here and a lot of friends as well.
Yes, I remember. I have a good, fun memories of playing in Albuquerque, and we have lots of friends there. Can't wait to go back again.
Yeah, we can't wait to
Yeah,
have you back for sure.
great.
So the album, or you've got a live album out due November 27th, and it's via Century Media. It's entitled "The Lost Machine." How did you all come to the decision for this endeavor?
You mean the decision for the title or for the whole project?
For the whole project?
Oh yeah. Well, we had a couple of shows recorded, multi-track, with Francis, who mixed the Wake album, the last album we did, and the EP before that. And you never know what you're gonna do with recordings, and it felt like it's been 10 years since the last live album, and we didn't have any live official release with the current lineup. And we played a couple of shows during in Quebec, in our own province in Canada, and we had the opportunity to record a few of those shows. So we thought maybe at some point we could use best performances of shows, different songs from different show, and put out an album. But it ended up that the Quebec City show at the festival, summer festival, was a great performance from start to finish. And I remember getting out of the stage and saying, guys, this one felt really good. Like, it was one of the good shows. Like, and we played those songs for a few years, touring for the Wake, supporting the Wake, and we changed a few songs in the set list here and there. But I think the machine was well oiled, so to speak, to play. And that night was kind of magical, playing in our own place, Quebec City and VoiVod. Uh, have this long time relationship with the people and the fans, and we played there a couple of years ago, opening for Metallica, and the festival there always respected us and invite us every year or every 2 years to play. And so we have this special relationship with Quebec City and people in Quebec. So it was pretty magical, the vibe, the crowd, and we played really, really well. The tempos were all perfect, and the vibe was just, it was a perfect show. So we were lucky to have recorded it, and we could use it as an official live. I think the sound is pretty amazing and the vibe is there.
Now, was there any pressure as far as, knowing that you were going to use this for a release? Was there a little added extra pressure? I remember Rush had the album A Show of Hands, and then the back of the video cassette, when you read it, they talked about it being everything being perfect, the crew being perfect, the vibe being perfect. Was there any of that pressure for it to be perfect, or were you just going to just let it be what it was?
I don't know about what's going on in the head of Rocky Away and Snake, but for me, uh, I kind of forgot about the recording. Just went for the show, and I think the whole band was like that. Like, we just forget that we are being recorded, and we just play the show as usual for the people that are in the crowd. And I think if you forget about that, you kind of lose the pressure, and you just go for the real stuff, the music, the vibe, that what's coming from your guts and your heart. And that's what you want that's what you want to be captured for a live album. So I think we were not in our heads, but we were present for the music, and into this bubble of VoiVod music for the whole set. Yeah.
Right. So besides some of the earlier live demos when the band first started, almost nearly 40 years ago, this is this is the second official live album, but you also had, so there was the VoiVod Lives 20 years ago, and then there was
Yes.
the Warriors of Ice that came out in 2011. So how do you feel that this album, The Lost Machine, as far as live albums, stacks up against the one that you played on, which was the Warriors of Ice?
It's 10 years ago, uh different set list, totally different set list, different lineup too. So the sound is not exactly the same, different mixing. uh you know in 10 years there's a lot of evolution in a musician's life and in a group life. Chemistry is changing, and the way you play, the way you interpret the songs. And if you tour a lot, there's a lot of little connection that's created all along the way, between us, and musically, and in the relationships as well. So it shows on the new live. And uh and uh I think it's mixed. I don't know. I'm French Canadian. I'm looking for my English. Uh, Brilliantly by Francis too. He knows how to capture the essence of the band. He knows the tone. He knows that VoiVod is a very natural, organic machine, we don't edit much, like we just edit what's could scratch the timpani a little bit, but not much. It's pretty straightforward. That's how we play. That's how we sound. And it's a very honest record. All the mistake we made are still there, and I think that's what makes it very alive. So yeah, we're pretty very proud of it. This one, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So you also, you mentioned your performance. You mentioned that it was a very organic kind of feel, and I find that to be very fascinating because oftentimes live albums seem to be overproduced. Your catalog, the VoiVod catalog, is vast. How did you guys determine the set list for this album?
That's a nightmare for me. I want to play them all,
Yeah.
as a fanboy. But yeah, we had to stick with the more recent songs with this lineup. So songs from The Wake, songs from the EP Post Society, and we dug up a few oldies, so to speak, not so old, but from the Outer Limits, like The Lost Machine, and we recently play also Fix My Heart, uh,
Oh,
the opening track of All Outer Limits. So it's really refreshing, even for the guys to play those songs, because it's been a while. And for me, it's more of a fantasy of finally be able to play it live with the band.
yeah.
It feels so good. So we tried to choose all the albums that Snake sings on. We did in the past with Snake one or two songs from the Eric Forrest era as well, which was really cool and original because they don't have the same voice at all, so they interpret it a different way. But I love Phobos. I love the albums with Eric. I think it's a different vibe, but it's still pretty much Voivod, and Biggie's so heavy and psychedelic on those albums. I really like them, so I would want to maybe play a few songs of those albums too. But I think we choose some classics and some hidden gems. So the set list is balanced, and you can, for not the die-hard fans, you can discover some of the songs, old or new. But if you don't know from what album or what era of the band it's from, it sounds pretty consistent in a voivod voivodin way. If we play the prow now, is different than it sounded 15 years ago, and if we play uh, Order of the Blackguards or Overreaction, which are from mid 80s on Killing Technology, they won't sound exactly the same as that era, but it will be consistent with the present lineup sound. So it's refreshing to hear and to play those songs too.
I saw that Overreaction was on the set list. That got me very excited.
Yeah.
That album meant so much to me back in '87 when I was a kid, and I wore that tape out. I really wore it out, literally, that it stretched, it broke. So I thank you guys for adding that one onto the set list.
You know what? It was the first cassette I bought in my life was Killing Technology. I was 11 years old, and I could borrow money from a paperboy job, and I went with my bicycle to the store and I bought this cassette, and I did the same as you. I've listened to it so much. I still have it, but it's kind of in a bad shape.
Yeah. I would take it to parties all the time, and I would say, "Can I play this? Can I play this tape?" And people would be like, "Yeah, go ahead." And I'd play it, and then they were just like, maybe they weren't all metal fans there,
Like,
so they'd be like kind of freaking out, and I'd be just headbanging in the living room.
yeah, exactly. It's an acquired taste.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in regards to the live album, also, well, first, let me ask you this question. So, with all the live albums that have ever been put out from any band, say like Unleashed in the East from Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or Rush, or what is your all-time favorite live album from any band?
Hey, boy, it's hard to say. It's hard to tell. Wow, that's a good one. Hmm. Well, I you know, I don't have a big collection of live albums, but I've listened to Life After Death quite a lot.
Oh, nice.
Uh, and
That's a
I
good one.
thought it was a very honest album too, because you can hear that Bruce have a hard time sings on some of the songs, but he sings with all his power and guts, and he's going for it, you know. And I really admire that guy, you know. He's a very special human being, and I think it's written in the booklet that they played like 285 shows during a year, you know.
Yeah.
How can that be, you know? They're superheroes or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
So
imagine his voice having to have to deal with that many shows.
yes,
Crazy.
I mean it's not a, it's not an object, it's part of your body. So and he's jumping all around and, you know, doing Tarzan and stuff like that. So it's I'm very Iron Maiden has been a one of the best act I've ever seen live, and all the time it's consistent. They're all in, you know, and there's no one lazy in the band. They're all uh, always putting on a great show. So that's the first one that came to mind like that. But I've listened to Voivod Lives with Eric Forrest quite a lot.
Right.
The tracks are a little bit noisy and all that, but the era of the band is kind of like Phobos. It's a little bit more chaotic, and I liked the interpretation on this album as well. Um, and that's pretty much what comes to mind right now. Wow, my favorite album, one of my favorite live album is the double album Cardiacs, recorded at the special garage show in London, I think.
Uh-huh.
One of my favorite band, and the performance is outstanding. But it's not a metal band really.
Right.
It's a different kind of.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be. One of my favorites is, Peter Frampton. Obviously, Frampton comes
Yeah,
live. That's really the guitar work on there is unbelievable. So yeah, there's several live albums that aren't metal live ones that I really like, and that would definitely be one of them. There's a video out for the Lost Machine, man. It's freaking wild, man. I love it. It's the best thing I've ever seen. And you mentioned it, Philippe is.
yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Bill Alcazar. Um,
I guess it sounds like that.
yeah,
Felipe Belalcazar.
yeah, that's I believe that's how it's pronounced, his name, and he directed it. Can you tell us about your thoughts on that video?
Yes, actually, the footage comes from the jazz festival, the International Montreal Jazz Festival, because we were invited to play there, believe it
Right.
or not, last year, and that's the reason. Long story short, that I ended up writing a brass quintet over the end of Dormancy, one of the single of the album The Wake, who we uh, we did another version with a brass quintet. So I wrote an arrangement for the song, and the reason why I did it, it's because we were invited in a jazz festival, and I thought it would be cool to do something special, a little bit more jazzy, so to speak. So it ended up like more of a uh, movie soundtrack kind of vibe, you know, like influence from Planet of the Apes and Ben Hur back in the day, old version of the movies, and all the great orchestras from that era and great composer and arrangers. So anyway, we did record that show too, the International Jazz Festival performance with the brass quintet, and we used it on the EP as a live version with a saxophone solo, which is not on the original song. And we did a studio version as well of the arrangement, but the image of the video is from that performance.
Mhm.
And we played Lost Machine, obviously, and we used the image from the jazz festival over the audio of the Quebec City show that we played 1 week later.
Oh, okay.
And Philippe was able to sync the image and the audio very easily. So that means that our tempo and our way to play the song both times were very consistent, which is a good sign.
Right, right, right.
and uh, and so he was able to sync every part, so it doesn't look like a different performance, you know. And he managed to use Away's drawing
Yeah,
sci-fi monsters and
yeah,
his crazy imagination, and put it over some of the images and make them move and everything. And he kind of, he knows how the band vibe is, the definition of the band's vibe and everything. So he used it in a brilliant way, so it could mix and morph the face of
yeah,
Snake or superimpose images, and it felt like the old VoiVod videos, a little bit like Ravenous Medicine and maybe a Psychic Vacuum a little bit,
yeah,
you know. And
yeah.
I really like it. He's brilliant. He did a great job. I was very pleased with the result.
When I first watched Out About Lost My Head, seeing that imagery on Snake, because he's already animated,
Yeah,
he goes up there and he transforms into Morgoth and all of that, And when you see that video, I mean, it's very intricate the way it's done. But now that you're telling me how it was layered and stuff, I'm even that much more impressed on how that thing was put together. That was fascinating. Um,
yeah,
you also have a documentary coming up as well, and it's also directed by Felipe. Want to tell us a little bit
yes,
about that?
yes. I think it started way back. At least they started to shoot for a documentary before Piggy's passing, actually, and it was Mr. Dunn, you know, that started it, and I think he filmed quite a lot of. He had quite a lot of footage, and I remember when we played Roadburn in 2012, there was a crew filming us about the documentary. So it's been maybe 10 years
Oh
that
wow.
the documentary is kind of on and off and on and off, and finding money or people that can work on it and continue the project, but it's a long process. I think they started it uh, maybe shortly after Piggy's passing, and then the band started to play again. So the story is not, it's not finished yet, you know. And so it's in the process. Felipe is working on that. I don't know much. I know we all did interviews, and uh, there's a lot of information to process to make it in a 2 hour or so uh, documentary, maybe one and a half. I don't have much details about it, but I know it's going to be very interesting, and I can't wait to see it for the first time. What kind of job he's doing on that, but I trust him uh,
Right.
100%.
For all of us VoiVod fans, man, especially going back to Warren Payne and the first, when Blower was on Metal Massacre, that's going to be special for us to see that. I'm really looking forward to it, and I can't wait. I got a
Yes, because
couple.
there's a lot of information about the Bay Area history, trash
Oh yeah,
metal, San Francisco, and there's a lot of stuff that's come from there, and in Boston and New York. But maybe it's one of the first that we'll talk about the Montreal scene and the Quebec scene, and throughout the years, Montreal has big, stronger and stronger sounding in metal, in different genres of metal. We
right.
have a lot of bands that have success, international success, are in very, very different kind of metal. So it's going to be interesting.
Right, yeah, it goes back to bands like Exciter and Sacrifice, and even some of the hardcore bands like SNFU and Dayglow Abortions, and
Yeah, yeah.
so really, really cool stuff. That's great that encompasses. That's a very important part of metal history. I think that needs to be covered. I got a couple more questions. I know you're
Yeah,
going to have to run here soon,
no
but
problem.
one of the things, the philosophy, the mindset of VoiVod, I want to get into that because it's almost like this band was eerily prophetic, talking about climate problems, man not at one with nature, fascism, you think of a song like Mr. Clean or Order of the Blackguards or experiments going wrong, all of that kind of craziness. From your perspective, coming into the band, how did it feel to encompass everything and embody all that is the Voivod mindset?
I think I was already in that kind of bubble because I've been a fan since I was 11 years old. So I was already aware of the vibe, the lyrics, the sci-fi thing, the conspiracy, the poetry of the images and the lyrics, and all this world that was proposed to me by the guys, you know. And I've how do you say it? I've been swimming, so to speak, in that vibe for a long time before being in the band. So it was just a continuity of just participating in that is quite surreal for me, and be part of the creation uh, of the new stuff, and looking at Snake scratching in his head and writing lyrics and having these crazy ideas of concepts in his head and try to put it into music, and he's trying to put lyrics on the music, and the creative process is quite amazing and enjoyable. But yeah, it was not too hard for me to get it, because I was already uh, kind of into it quite a lot.
So you knew the story and everything already, much like
Yeah,
like I was saying when I was a little, a teenager listening to Roar or Killing Technology.
I'm from the same place as you and any other fans on the planet. I'm still a fan, and it's kind of I'm in a conflict of interest sometimes. You know, I have
Right.
to calm down my fanboy side to stay professional.
Right. I hear
But
you.
it's a
You're
difficult
blessed,
way.
though. You're blessed, and we're blessed to have you
Oh, thank
as
you.
a fan and in the band, because we know that your love and your passion is there, and that's much, much appreciated. Lastly, unfortunately, the last week and a half, we lost one of the greatest artists of all time on the world,
Man.
Eddie Van Halen. What did he mean to you? And real quickly, I saw you had done on your YouTube page. You did the guitar solo for "Beat It" from Michael Jackson, and man, that was beautiful. And by the way, I really appreciate some of the other songs you have on there, like Alan Holdsworth, and just
Yeah.
amazing that some of the your guitar playing and your techniques and such. But I want to ask you again what Eddie Van Halen meant to you.
Eddie Van Halen, one of a kind, really. And when it comes to music, for me, it's all about uniqueness and authenticity and novelty. And he was all that. He was as important as Hendrix for the guitar, electric guitar. I mean, but as well as for music, and he invented pretty much everything about rock guitar. Like, he designed his own guitar from scratch because of necessity. He didn't have money. He used this body and this neck, put it together, and find a pickup on another guitar and drill his guitar and paint it, and he invented his own way of playing it. You know, it was very, very unique and very hard to imitate. I've played in bars in my pre VoiVod career, and cover bands, and I had to learn some of the songs, and some of that David Lee Roth band song afterward with Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan. So I've learned those licks, and I've played that kind of stuff for a while. And Eddie Van Halen's playing is one of the hardest to copy, to really get the sound and the articulation. It's very unique, and the sound, the brown sound, like his electric guitar sound was revolutionary, and he was always searching for new stuff and novelty and pushing, and always being true to himself. And that's what I kind of remember of what he brought to the music world. If you have an idea, go for it deeply, like dig for what you're go for it. Like, don't give up the quest for your, I don't know, like, accomplishment. And I kind of it's fun to remember, to it's inspiring. That's what I meant.
Right.
Inspiring. And for me, he was friends with and a big fan of Alan Holdsworth as well. He was
Right.
very a lot of influenced by Alan Holdsworth. And for me, Alan Holdsworth is a guitar hero too. So It's a little bit confusing because Van Halen has this huge popularity. Everybody knows one song. They know Jump.
Right.
Everybody knows it. Alan Holdsworth was an unknown, only like very niche, narrow audience.
Right.
But he influenced one that influenced everybody.
Right.
So it's not always the source is not always what you think. Like everybody influence each other, and it doesn't matter the popularity or the rating. It's what you bring, and it's what transpires and lives on that counts.
Well said, and I believe that to be the case of VoiVod as well.
I
Chewy,
hope so.
yeah, oh no doubt about it. Chewy, it's been very fascinating and a very huge pleasure for me to have done this interview with you. I want to thank you very much. Always continued success and long live VoiVod forever. Viva la VoiVod, for sure. And,
Viva la VoiVod.
and
Thank you so much.
thank you very much, and I really do appreciate it. Please be safe and give our best from Albuquerque to the rest of everybody in VoiVod. We do appreciate it. You take care, and thanks again.
Thanks a lot, and can't wait to go back and play and meet again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.